The Thraxian general watched the human battalion die, and for the first time in 300 campaigns, Zyrax felt something close to confusion. The tactical display showed the 74th engagement since humanity joined the Galactic Covenant, another predictable loss. The humans fought with chemical propellants and metal slugs, while his forces wielded plasma that could vaporize stone. Their armor was composite plating. His warriors wore energy shields that could deflect orbital strikes. By every measurement of military science, this should have been a simple containment action on Threshold Gate 7, another minor species learning its place in the hierarchy of civilized warfare. Yet the humans kept moving forward. Zyrax's crimson skin darkened as his three eyes tracked individual heat signatures. The humans were cut off from their command ship, the UEF Resolute, which burned in low orbit above the contested moon. No reinforcements, no extraction. Their casualties had passed 60%. Standard Covenant doctrine suggested surrender at 40. Even the Volmari, who valued honor above survival, typically withdrew at 50. The humans were at 68% and accelerating their assault. Analysis, Zyrax said, his mandibles clicking in the dry tone that his species used for tactical discussions. A junior tactician, Omrix, gestured at the holographic display. They're attempting to reach the communications array, General. If they transmit our fleet positions before we silence them, impossible. They have no heavy weapons remaining. Our fourth Talon holds the array with full defensive positions. Zyrax leaned closer to the display. This is irrational. What command structure authorizes wasteful death? Omrix's skin paled slightly. Uncertainty. Their commander, Colonel James Holloway, transmitted 15 minutes ago. The message was intercepted, but not jammed per your orders. Play it. The human voice was rough, damaged by smoke or injury. All units, Gate 7 cannot fall. If they transmit from here, the fleet dies. Everyone we know dies. So we don't stop. Not for casualties. Not for rationale. We end this, or we end here. Holloway out. Zyrax's central eye narrowed. He acknowledges the impossibility. Yes, General. And proceeds regardless. Yes, General. Zyrax stood motionless for 17 seconds, cycling through tactical scenarios. Irrational behavior was predictable in prey species during panic, but this wasn't panic. The human voice had been calm, resigned, certain. Dispatch 3rd and 5th Talons to the array, Zyrax said. I want this contained within the hour. Omrix's skin flickered with surprise. General, the 4th Talon alone outnumbers the remaining humans 4-1. Do it. The display updated. 2 more Thraxian units moved toward the communications array. Over 300 warriors with full tactical support against what remained of a broken human battalion. Zyrax watched the humans close the distance. They moved in small groups, using terrain that his tactical AI had marked as inadequate cover. They were taking fire from elevated positions. Their casualties continued to climb. 71%. 73. They did not slow. Zyrax had seen species fight with desperation before. The Zervek had thrown themselves at superior forces during the Dissolution Wars, accepting catastrophic losses and suicide charges. But the Zervek had been drugged, their higher cognitive functions suppressed by combat stimulants. These humans were operating with full tactical awareness. They called coordinates, adjusted fire patterns. One group flanked left while another provided suppressing fire with laughably primitive weapons. They were thinking clearly while committing to certain death. 4th Talon reports contact, Omrix said. Humans have reached the outer defensive perimeter. Zyrax watched as the lead human element, 11 soldiers, engaged a Thraxian position fortified with automated turrets and energy barriers. The humans used explosive devices to create a smokescreen, then advanced during the 3-second window while targeting sensors recalibrated. 5 humans died in those 3 seconds. The remaining 6 reached the barrier, attached more explosives, and detonated them before the Thraxians could adjust their fields. The barrier collapsed. The 6 humans died as Thraxian plasma fire converged on their position, but 3 more human squads were already moving through the gap they'd created. 79% casualties, Omrix reported. His voice carried an edge Zyrax had never heard from a Thraxian tactical officer, something that might have been unease. Their advance is accelerating, Zyrax said quietly. General? They're dying faster, but they're moving faster. As if... Zyrax stopped. The thought was impossible, but the data was clear. As if each death makes them more determined, not less. On the display, another human squad, this one with 6 soldiers, encountered a Thraxian heavy weapons team. The humans had no counter for the plasma cannons that could reduce them to ash in seconds. They charged anyway. 4 died instantly. The remaining 2 reached the Thraxian position and detonated explosives at point-blank range, destroying themselves and the weapon emplacement simultaneously. Subscribe and hit the bell. Now back to it. 82%, Omrix whispered. Zyrax's skin had darkened to near black, an involuntary response his species experienced when confronting something that defied fundamental understanding. He had fought in the Compliance Wars, where entire species had been absorbed into the Covenant through overwhelming military superiority. He had seen courage. He had seen sacrifice. He had seen honor. He had never seen this. Third Talon is engaged, Omrix reported. Fifth Talon moving to secondary positions. Fourth Talon requests permission to fall back and consolidate. Denied, Zyrax said. All units hold position. General, the humans number less than 50. We have nearly 400 warriors in defensive positions with full support. There's no tactical justification for... How many of our warriors have ever seen an enemy who doesn't retreat? Zyrax turned his three eyes on Omrix. Who doesn't surrender? Who advances with 80% casualties as if death is merely an obstacle to rout around? Omrix's mandibles worked silently. Our warriors are wondering, Zyrax continued, what kind of enemy does that? What kind of mind accepts certain death and continues thinking tactically, continues advancing, continues killing? He gestured at the display. That's why Fourth Talon wants to retreat, not because they fear death, because they've never encountered something that doesn't fear death and remains rational. Another human element, 9 soldiers, engaged a Thraxian squad near the array's main entrance. The Thraxians had superior position, superior weapons, and superior numbers. The humans used their dead as cover, dragging bodies to create firing positions, then advanced using those positions as staging points. 3 humans survived that exchange. They reached the entrance. 87%, Omrix said. Zyrax watched the 3 humans place explosives on the array's primary doors, massive barriers designed to withstand orbital bombardment. The charges they carried were insufficient. The humans had to know this. They detonated anyway. The doors buckled but held. 2 of the humans died in the explosion. The third stood in the smoke, wounded, carrying a weapon that would be useless against the 50 Thraxian warriors inside the array. The human, female, Zyrax's sensors indicated, spoke into her communication device. Holloway, this is Lieutenant Sarah Cole. Outer door is damaged but sealed. I'm out of explosives, out of options. There was a pause, then the rough voice from before. Cole, you've done enough. Fall back. Sir, there's nowhere to fall back to. The human's voice was steady. And if I leave, they'll repair the door before our remaining forces arrive. Then wait for support. Sir, with respect, there are 6 of us left. That's not support. That's just more people dying in the same place. The human checked her weapon. But if I can get inside, even for a minute, I can damage the transmitter. Buy us time. Cole, it's been an honor, sir. The human disconnected, adjusted her weapon, and walked toward the damaged door. 50 Thraxian warriors waited inside with clear lines of fire. The human knew this. She walked steadily. Zyrax leaned forward, his skin cycling through colors, confusion, analysis, something that had no name in Thraxian psychology. Why? He said aloud. Omrix didn't answer. Neither did any of the other tactical officers in the command center. They all watched as the human reached the door, found a gap created by the explosives, and began to squeeze through. Thraxian plasma fire erupted from the opening. The human's body armor absorbed 3 shots before failing. The 4th shot hit her shoulder. The 5th hit her torso. She kept moving. She was inside the array now, visible on internal sensors. Her biological readings indicated catastrophic damage, blood loss, organ failure imminent. She had perhaps 60 seconds of consciousness remaining. She moved toward the primary transmitter, still 30 meters away. Thraxian warriors closed from all directions. The human killed 3 with her primitive weapon before it failed. She drew a sidearm, killed 2 more. The weapon clicked empty. She threw it at another warrior, a gesture so futile it would have been amusing if not for everything Zyrax had witnessed. The Thraxian warriors surrounded her, 20 of them, weapons trained on a dying human who could no longer even stand properly. The human pulled something from her vest. Grenade signature, Omrix said urgently. She's got... The explosion was small by military standards. It killed the human instantly and damaged 6 Thraxian warriors. It also destroyed a critical power conduit leading to the transmitter. The array went dark. Secondary power will restore function in 90 seconds, Omrix reported. Zyrax's tactical display updated. The remaining 5 human soldiers, impossibly, 5 still lived, were converging on the array from different directions. They're not trying to reach it before power restores, Zyrax said slowly. They're just continuing. Fourth Talon is requesting, tell them to hold, Zyrax said, and prepare my shuttle. Omrix's skin went pale. Shock. General? I'm going to the surface. That's unprecedented. You're the fleet commander. You can't expose yourself to what? 5 dying humans with no heavy weapons and no hope? Zyrax turned away from the display. Prepare my escort. I will speak with whoever survives the next 90 seconds. 63 seconds later, when power restored to the communications array, three human soldiers remained alive. They were inside the facility, wounded, separated from each other, surrounded by over 200 Thraxian warriors who now understood that conventional tactics were insufficient. The humans were still fighting. Zyrax's shuttle landed near the array 20 minutes later. The fighting had stopped, not because the humans surrendered, but because Zyrax had ordered his warriors to cease fire and establish a perimeter. The three humans were trapped in separate sections of the facility, wounded, unable to escape, still armed, still dangerous. Zyrax entered the array with 6 guards, his crimson skin dark with anticipation. He found the first human in a maintenance corridor, a male with extensive burns and a shattered leg. The human had propped himself against a wall, weapon pointed at the corridor entrance. "I am General Zyrax of the Thraxian Fourth Fleet," he said in carefully modulated human language. "You are defeated. Your objective has failed. Your forces are destroyed. I offer medical assistance in exchange for your surrender." The human, his uniform indicated Lieutenant Marcus Webb, smiled. Blood stained his teeth. "You're talking to us. That means we've got something you want to understand. You have nothing. Then shoot me and move on, General." Zyrax studied the human. "Why did you continue after your objective became impossible?" "Because possible and impossible are just your opinion," Marcus Webb said, "and we don't take tactical advice from the enemy. That's not rational. No, it's human." Zyrax felt his skin shift colors again, that nameless response to something that violated fundamental categories. "You knew you would die, yeah? You understood the mathematics, the certainty, yeah? And you found this acceptable." Marcus Webb's smile widened. "We found it necessary. That's different." He coughed, and more blood appeared. "See, General, you fight because you're strong, because you have better weapons and superior numbers and all the advantages. You've never had to fight when you're weak, when you're losing, when everything rational says quit." He adjusted his grip on his weapon, a gesture that took visible effort. "We're familiar with those situations. We've lived our entire history in them. So when you look at what we did today and call it irrational, what you're really saying is that you've never been desperate enough to learn what rational actually means when all your advantages are gone." Zyrax was silent for a long moment. Then he gestured to his guards. "Medical team, immediately." "Sir," one guard said, "all three humans, full treatment. They are prisoners under Covenant military law and will be afforded appropriate care." "General, they destroyed nothing permanently except themselves," Zyrax said. "The array is functional. The tactical objective is secured. And I have learned something today that every warrior in this fleet needs to understand." Marcus Webb watched as Thraxian medics approached. "What's that?" "That humanity doesn't fight with desperation," Zyrax said quietly. "You fight with certainty. You looked at impossible odds and didn't hope to overcome them. You simply decided they were irrelevant to your decisions." His skin had shifted to a color Marcus Webb couldn't name. "My species has conquered 47 worlds, Lieutenant. We've never encountered an enemy that treats defeat as merely another tactical variable to work around. So what happens now?" "Now?" Zyrax turned toward the exit. "Now I return to my fleet and inform them that we've been operating under a fundamental misunderstanding about human military capability. We thought you were weak because you lose battles. We didn't understand that you've spent your entire existence developing strategies that function independently of whether you're winning or losing." He paused at the doorway. "We've never needed those strategies, Lieutenant. We've always been the stronger force. But you've never been the stronger force, have you? So you developed something we never needed to develop." "What's that?" "The ability to win after you're defeated," Zyrax said. "Or at least to make defeat so costly that victory becomes meaningless." The general left Marcus Webb with the medics and walked through the captured facility. Thraxian warriors stood at their positions, victorious by every tactical metric. They held the objective. They'd suffered minimal casualties. They'd destroyed an enemy force completely. But Zyrax could see it in their skin tones, the subtle shifts that indicated his warriors were processing something new and deeply unsettling. They'd won, but they'd learned that humans didn't measure victory the same way. In his shuttle returning to the fleet, Zyrax composed his report. The tactical summary was straightforward. Objective secured, enemy neutralized, acceptable casualties. But he added a classified addendum to Covenant Command. Recommend comprehensive revision of engagement protocols regarding human forces. Current models assume rational self-preservation as a limiting factor in enemy tactical decisions. Observation indicates humans operate under a different paradigm where survival is subordinate to objective completion. This creates an asymmetric advantage wherein human forces become more dangerous as their probability of survival decreases, inverse of normal combat psychology. Additionally, Human personnel demonstrate tactical coherence under conditions that would cause psychological collapse in any known species. They maintain complex, coordinated actions while suffering casualties that exceed any documented threshold for unit dissolution. This suggests either extraordinary discipline or a fundamentally different relationship with mortality. Final note: 3 human survivors were recovered and are receiving medical treatment. Preliminary interrogation suggests they view today's action as neither exceptional nor particularly noteworthy. When asked about their willingness to accept certain death, Lieutenant Marcus Webb stated, "That's just Tuesday for us, General." I don't know what this means. I recommend we find out before we engage humanity in any larger conflict. Because if this is their standard operating procedure, if this is merely Tuesday for them, then we have fundamentally miscalculated what kind of enemy we're facing. Zyrax stood on his command deck, watching Threshold Gate 7 recede in the viewport. His fleet had won a decisive tactical victory. They'd secured their objective with minimal losses against an inferior enemy. But for the first time in 300 campaigns, General Zyrax felt something that his species had no word for, something that existed in the space between respect and fear, between understanding and profound uncertainty. He'd watched 70 humans fight 400 Thraxian warriors to near total annihilation, and somehow, impossibly, those 70 had achieved something no tactical model predicted. They'd made 400 victorious warriors afraid of what 5 defeated humans might do next. That wasn't military science. That was something humanity had learned in whatever dark history had taught them to treat death as negotiable and victory as mandatory. And Zyrax suspected the Galactic Covenant had made a catastrophic error in believing they understood what warfare meant to a species that had perfected fighting from positions of total disadvantage. The 3 human survivors would recover. They'd be exchanged in prisoner negotiations within weeks, and they'd return to human forces carrying the same certainty that had made them so dangerous here. The knowledge that sometimes battles aren't won by those with better weapons or superior numbers, but by those willing to redefine what winning means when all conventional paths to victory have closed.